In D.C., big conservative victories are few and far between. In Florida, we deliver big victories every single day. We reject the culture of losing that has infected the Republican Party in recent years.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, Republican, of course, selling his approach as the way to win and seemed to take a little swipe there at recent GOP election losses. Time to discuss with our Sunday group, Politico congressional reporter Olivia Beavers, Fox News senior political analyst Juan Williams, former Bush White House advisor Karl Rove, and former Senate candidate from Washington State, now chairman of Rescuing the American Dream, Tiffany Smiley. Welcome, everybody. Good to see you this morning. Okay, so let's start there. Ron DeSantis was in town this week. He was gripping and grinning, and yet people who met with him then went and endorsed President Trump, who is racking up the wins on congressional endorsements. I want to play something from Congressman Stubbe on why he chose President Trump.
There's been multiple opportunities where I have gone up to him and talked to him, given him my cell phone number, asked him to reach out to me. Not even a person from his staff called me back.
Olivia, we heard that again and again this week.
Yes. And, a couple weeks ago, I was asking, and my colleague and I got both the senators from Florida and all of the House Republicans from Florida. And this was a problem that we kept hearing again and again, was he is not accessible. Now, I think that after hearing this, Greg Stubbe bringing it up repeatedly in a very public fashion, maybe the DeSantis will be much better about answering his phone call compared to Donald Trump, who they said would bring you right back as president and after he left the White House. But DeSantis, I think, is also going to be starting to be more aggressive. So right now you have Donald Trump filling the void. You had Lance Gooden walk out and sort of do like campaign gimmick of saying that he went to see Ron DeSantis talk, and then he goes, I'm endorsing Donald Trump with a press release that was already ready. And I think you're going to see him pushing out mailers. You're going to see him pushing out ads. They're going to be signing up volunteers. And I think that they're going to start being more of a stronger presence in the media than Donald Trump has been.
Yeah, and just a few days ago, he was up in New Hampshire, one of the key early states, and they actually had this assessment of him in Politico. It said DeSantis bucks his robot reputation. He worked the 500-person crowd at the Amos Tuck Diner in downtown Manchester for over an hour, a flurry of handshakes and photos that the state party chair said was unplanned and that defies the notion that he lacks retail skills. And Carl, in those early states, that's all important.
It matters a lot. And look, he's got a rock star status right now. He came to Texas, the largest campaign fundraisers for the Republican Party in Houston and in Dallas in history, raising over $1 million each. Biggest fundraiser in the history of the New Hampshire Republican Party this past week. And better to make mistakes and start correcting those mistakes earlier rather than later. And this idea of him going out there in New Hampshire and glad-handing people in selfies and rather than sitting at the head table, wandering through the audience and greeting each table, smart move on his part. Better to do it now. Obviously didn't have a good personal, warm and fuzzy relationship with Congressman Stubbe. But after a while, I think people are going to look at that and say, okay, fine, I get that. But what has the guy done and what's he capable of doing?
So here's the headline from the Wall Street Journal in recent polling. Donald Trump tops Ron DeSantis in test of GOP presidential field, which is true. He continues to pull away. But tucked into that article says this: Mr. DeSantis leads Mr. Biden 48-45 in a hypothetical contest, while Mr. Trump lags behind the Democratic president by 3 points. And Tiffany, when you look at some of the numbers in the polling there, it shows that people say they want a specific candidate. They don't care as much about who can actually win the general. Will they change their minds during the primary? You've been through a primary and a general election and fought your way through.
Yes, look, this is also really, really early. And Ron DeSantis hasn't even announced yet. But what I'm excited about is we have an opportunity to have robust debate and discussion about issues that are affecting the American people. That's good for our party. The Democrats won't have that because their far left extreme policies, they're already solidified. Which is why Joe Biden's approval is in the 30s. The American people are clear. They know the country is on the wrong track. I've seen that theme played out in a survey I just did of 2,000 registered voters across the country with my new project, Rescuing the American Dream. The American people want to put politics aside and start to have discussions about solutions. I think the best candidate will emerge who is able to discuss the solutions that will help the American people.
Well, it's going to be a robust debate, I have a feeling. Yes. And, you saw former Vice President Pence saying, like, if you're serious, you got to be in by June. So we'll see as we await more decisions and announcements. We will probably get one from President Biden this week. And here's the headline from Washington Examiner. Most Democrats don't want Biden to run, even as he readies an announcement. It says a majority of them remain adamant that he shouldn't run. And that's Democrats. Then when it comes to all voters, only 26% say Biden should run. Juan, we keep having this conversation. I mean, if he's the president, he's got that power of incumbency and he's running, he's clearly, well, anything can happen these days. He could get the nomination. We would expect him to. Yeah. But if there's this lack of enthusiasm and an outright adversarial feeling about him actually running, what happens next?
I don't think it's adversarial. I just think there's low disapproval. We live in an age of extreme polarized politics. So imagine just wipe off 50%, wipe off Republicans. They're not going to approve of Joe Biden.
But a majority of Democrats saying no thank you.
No, they're saying, I think, look, first of all, he's going to be the nominee. What you heard from Lucas Tomlinson earlier in the show, he's going to announce on Tuesday in a video. But I think the fact that Trump is running and that Trump is doing so well is the glue that's holding lots of factions of the Democratic Party behind Joe Biden. I think that you have to understand that for people who disapprove of both President Trump and President Biden, it's according to a Wall Street Journal poll this week, 54 to 15% they prefer Joe Biden. They'd vote for Joe Biden if that's the alternative.
Carl shaking
so
his
the
head.
age, let me just finish here. I think age is a big factor for the people you've been talking about who say, gee, this guy would be pretty old if he's elected president. But I just think back, because I'm a pretty old guy, I think back to Ronald Reagan. And I think of people saying, oh, Ronald Reagan was the wise old man. It's morning in America again. And what happened? He won in a landslide.
And he was in his 60s, not his 80s.
He was on his way. Let me tell you.
Come on, look, let's be honest. There's the deep concern about Joe Biden's ability to handle another 4 years. Yep. 27% of Democrats in the AP poll said they preferred him to run, 73% not. Monmouth prefer to see Biden run for a second term. 25% of Democrats prefer to see Biden step aside. 44 have no preference. Those are the polite people who don't want to tell a pollster, I don't want him to run. 30. The country can do better than an 82-year-old and a 78-year-old, and needs to do better when we face the kind of challenges we face. I agree with the editors of that great newspaper, the Wall Street Journal, in their weekend editorial. He would do the country a service by stepping aside, and he would do his party a service, because then somebody could rise up who could serve 8 years more rather than 4, as he might be able to do.
Let me quote the great Joe Biden. Compare me not to the Almighty, but to the alternative.
Okay.
And here,
what the country needs.
Well,
not
saying, okay,
I know
well,
he enjoys flying home on Air Force One and riding around on the helicopter. But that was an embarrassing trip to Ireland to watch. It was painful. It was painful.
It was painful.
No,
this guy's with his family wearing a rosary, giving tribute to the priest.
Did you see how confused he was meeting with the families? Go look at the videotape. It is painful.
I love it.
His son has to be at his elbow and tell him what to do.
I love you,
Carl. Dad, we got a pop.
Carl, I love you. But let me tell you who had an embarrassing week is your alternative to Donald Trump, DeSantis, a midnight 6-week ban on abortion, saying that people can walk around with guns without a permit. And nobody likes it. People in Florida don't like it. This guy is slipping badly, and he's supposed to be the alternative.
The Floridians liked it to the tune of a 19-point win for DeSantis in
way
November.
Back.
Not sure.
And let's
ancient history,
be clear
November.
about one quick thing. Polls at this point, Tiffany's absolutely right. They don't mean anything.
Snapshot.
Jeb Bush was leading at this point in 2015. And think about this. 30 days before Iowa in 2004, Howard Dean was leading. In 2008, Clinton and Rudy Giuliani. Newt was leading in 2012, 30 days before the Iowa. We're going to see the polls go up and go down, and we're going to have people like Juan write off Ron DeSantis and write off Asa Hutchinson.
All I'm saying is he's stumbling, and Donald Trump is trolling him, has the man eating pudding with his fingers.
Oh, boy. Okay. That won't be happening during the commercial. There will be arm wrestling on this side of the table. That's pay-per-view, though. Okay, panel, stick around.